Hello and welcome back to the Data Privacy Lawyer. My name is Fumi Owolabi. Today we're reviewing cookies. So we're looking at Pinterest. Okay, this was last updated July 1st, 2021. I do find that surprising given the type of information that is obtained on Pinterest. That being said, let's take a look at the actual notice. The first thing that I recognize, let me see this. Okay, let's talk about this. Let's talk first and foremost about the consent management platform. The one being used here is user-centric consent management. Now, what is this about? The first thing I want to identify is the fact that I didn't receive a banner letting me know that cookies were going to be collected. But let's get into the preference center. Now, what is the value of having a consent management platform? The value is that when an individual exercises their right as it pertains to their personal data, the consent management platform, they offer lots of different things, but essentially they manage the consent, which is the legal basis that businesses rely on at times. They manage who is opting in and opting out to certain processing activities. So here, let's look at analytic cookies. This helps improve the site. These cookies collect information about how you use and interact with Pinterest. More specifically, when you accept, these cookies allow us to review screen recordings and heat maps to optimize on-site experiences. So they've got a couple analytic cookies. Let me look at services, okay? So I find this consent platform very interesting because there is no button for me to exercise my preference when it comes to analytic cookies. And there's no option for me to accept, right? This would be the giving the consent. So when you give consent, it has to be an affirmative action. It has to be something that you click into. Now, as I've interacted with the site so far, I've not had the opportunity to accept anything because this, from a data protection standpoint, constitutes notice. They're telling me, as a visitor to their site, that the analytic cookies help improve the site. There's no option for me to accept anything here. Where can I click that? So the question that I have in my mind is, where am I given the opportunity to accept? Because as you can see with the preference center, there is no button. There's no button saying accept. The only button here is done. So what does done mean? And how do I opt out? Because it doesn't say that this is necessary for the site to function. It's not a necessary cookie. It's optional, meaning that I should have the option to accept, but I don't have that. You can see. Let's go to services. Okay, so let's go to this analytic cookie, scroll down. They've given us details on the description of service, which we're actually going to read. This is an online pinboard service for graphics and photographs with an optional social network, which includes visual search engine. Now, from this sentence, I don't personally see anything that dictates that this is a necessary cookie, okay? And if it's not a necessary cookie and it's associated with the processing of my information, I should have the option to opt out, okay? Based on the geography that I'm in. In some geographies, the obligation is to opt in. There would be no activity associated with cookies unless someone accepts, which is the language that's used here. So let's go back to services. They've told us the processing company. This list represents the purpose of the data collection. You can see they're using this for advertising, but I don't have the opportunity to opt out. What about if I decide I don't want you to use these cookies to advertise to me, right? I'm just going to keep scrolling down because I want to make sure that I've seen everything that there is to see. Okay. I opened every single document. I opened every single tab, and to date, I don't have the option to accept this type of cookie. So that's just my observation. You can change your cookie preference at any time, okay? My question is how? How do I change my preference? Because the only button here is done. Click on the different category headings to find out more and change your default settings. How? So let's talk a bit about tone and audience. Let's talk about tone and audience. The audience here, I presume, right? I know a little bit about Pinterest. I don't know everything. From what I know of Pinterest, you can upload pictures and little reels about different products and services your business has internally. Just from knowing that, I can make a presumption that the audience here are people that are not privacy lawyers exclusively. Generally, it's people that are trying to promote their brand. I think I've seen instances where people have put, pictures of their books and things like that. Generally, business owners that are posting pictures of their books are not sophisticated to the level of a privacy lawyer in understanding what a consent management platform should look like. Now, the detail that we're being provided here is that we can change our cookie preferences at any time. The first question that I have is, where am I supposed to do that if I'm not being presented with a specific button first? And then in addition to that, what does done mean for this site? Does done mean I accept? And if I do accept, how can I unaccept? And this is very important because it's not just important to have a cookie notice on your site. It's important to follow a specific process flow for the geographies where you process personal data. Now, this particular organization is headquartered in the United States. I'm not sure on all of the geographies where they process personal data, but let's only focus here because I am a US resident and I'm accessing the site as a website visitor. So in accessing the site, I am able to see the word done, but after scrolling through every single portion allotted, the decision here is yes. How do I change the decision? Do you see that? According to this preference center, by default, I've been opted in. Why? Because of the geography that I'm located in, which is the US. The obligation that a business has is they can opt you into certain processing activities, but they have to present you the option to opt out, which I again have not been presented. So that's the first thing that I want to say. This list represents all the personal data that is collected through opt-in and opt-out data. My question is, how do I opt out? I don't see that here. ID to request consent data. So I guess, I'm not sure, let's read the notice, but essentially I feel like copying this ID, if I had a question, like let's say I had a concern about not being able to have the opportunity to opt out of the processing associated with this analytic cookies, I presume I would need to copy this ID. I'm not sure what this means, right? And this goes back to tone and audience. What does the audience understand ID to request consent data to mean? Because I, as a privacy lawyer, don't know what it means. So maybe there's a description in the notice, which we haven't taken a look at, but I think the value of the privacy education is looking at manners in which businesses can look to continue to optimize their privacy program to ensure that it's consistent with the data protection laws that they have obligations. Because not every business has obligations under every data privacy law. And that's a very important aspect to cover here, because you may be a business that provides a SaaS service that helps engineers. There may be no healthcare data that's processed as a result of your SaaS solution, and as such, HIPAA doesn't apply to you. So you first need to identify which law applies to you, and then you need to look at what are our responsibilities under these laws, and then you need to enact them, put them into practice, put them into play. So I hope you enjoyed this review. Although we didn't get the chance to look at these cookies, I think that I've demonstrated some of the factors that influence a consent management platform. And the last thing I'm going to say here is that this was last updated 5 years ago. So it's really important to continue to review your public-facing privacy documents, because this is your representation to your consumers on what you do related to cookies. I don't want to spend too much time on this, but something just caught my eye. Here in the cookie notice, it says personalization cookies, and it also talks about marketing cookies. But when we go back to the preference center, all we can see is analytics. Do you see that? Analytic cookies. But we've also got personalization and marketing. So I hope that you enjoyed my review of this notice. If you have comments or questions, leave them below and I'll see you in another review.